justice for all.
Thank you all. Welcome to the Weathersfield Select Board meeting, April 3rd, 2023. Comments from Select Board, Town Manager, and citizens. Topics not on the agenda. Select Board, any comments?
I have two.
Go.
Last meeting, we listened to a presentation by the library and signed a letter, I guess, to say that we supported some grant to support that. And then overnight I kind of thought about it. So not only, we've seen some pictures of some badly needed repairs, and I know they're not here, so it's not really fair to get into it too deep, but I thought about the proposal of actually adding a room which went further than repair. And the reasons why, I listened to them, and one of them was to kind of be another source for Wi-Fi or business meetings or something like that. And when I thought about that, first of all, and I've driven by a number of times to see, not only, there might be a drainage issue, which we pointed out to them, depending on the footprint, which is why I asked just to see the survey. But I also thought about the money that we're putting into this building and the money that we've already put into, and the hard work that was put into the 1879 building, which has, right now, the fastest and the best internet in town, already there. And we struggle to find uses, particularly for that building. So I want to throw that out there about whether or not we want to ask a few more questions about the plan or something like that to the library. So, and they're not here, so I don't want to get into it. That's one point. So the next one was, I'm trying to catch up on some committees that have that I can't get to the meeting. So when you look at the minutes, and so are all the committees in town supposed to have the minutes posted by 5 days after the meeting?
Yes.
Does a weekend count as a day?
No.
Or is it business days?
Business days.
So it's a weekday. So I know that the chair went to great lengths trying to keep the chairs all together on these committees. They've changed, and I urge you to take a look at a few of the minutes of the committees, because the minutes that I saw, which was the Conservation Commission, it had some things that were listed that I really wanted to pay attention to, and they were listed on there to be talked about. But the minutes, I don't know whether they skipped them or whether or not they didn't have them in there, but they're not there on the subject. And then the Conservation Commission is taking up talking about the town plan and about they don't like some things or whatever, and so that's okay, but I think it went a little bit farther than they spoke about the chair. You weren't there, the chair of the planning commission. You got to read the minutes. Mm-hmm. So I don't. And they referred to the somehow the town has. I don't know whether we have, according to those minutes, listened to what is conceived as the state plan of affairs with regard to zoning, which I found kind of a little odd, because I'd like to speak to that at some point at the planning board, but I just wanted to raise the issue about, it seems like there are new chairs. You said, wait a minute, are we all on the same team here about where we're in the directions that we're going? Mm-hmm. And so it didn't read right to me on those minutes. But, well, one of the things I was looking for was the naming of rivers. They're not rivers.
Yeah, I remember that topic too.
Okay, so that got completely, it was on the agenda to be talked about, and then it kind of didn't get talked about, or the minutes.
You want to talk about the information we kind of got at the last planning commission about state direction? That seems
I
to be.
can. I don't remember the whole
I don't remember everything we had, but there was, so, just quickly, the land use administrator did give us, a brief, explanation and, information about, things that are happening at the state level and things that are coming down from the state level,
It was
so.
a legislative update.
Yeah, a legislative update, so that is in the packet for the planning commission meeting, last week, but.
But I was looking over the top of this, and I found it very odd, because as we all know, all of us sat through controversial or very volatile zoning, whatever proposed changes there were, okay? You gotta admit what it is. So I did see, though, after that all had happened, there are some reports that have surfaced where if conservation or if protected property, right now, John can probably speak to this, 24% of Vermont is permanently protected by conservation easements. The legislature, like, I heard it on the Channel 3 in the news, all of them are picking it up, that they want to up that ante to 30% permanently conserved. So, I saw a report after the zoning issues happened a year ago where there's somebody that wrote the report for the state of Vermont that said that C10 was not effective in conserving land for towns. It actually put houses on 10-acre lands and broke it up by, it was asking people to put roads in where they weren't, to enhance that. So the model that he was promoting was either through the land trusts or through that kind of thing, where you blocked off more of that, but it wasn't a mandatory, so you weren't gonna develop some C100 zone.
Well, one of the things that we got at the planning commission through the legislative update was that the state, and John, you can speak to this if you know anything about it, is that they want to focus densities, which basically addresses like our villages. And what I commented on at the planning commission was that I didn't get a sense that anybody wanted anything to really change in this town out of the hearings that we had on zoning. They didn't want the zoning in the 10 acres to change. They didn't want the zoning in the village to change. I don't see where they want a lot of business, and we haven't identified where we want business, those kinds of things. But now the state is stepping in and saying, more density, more density. We have to create housing. John, you want to speak to, am I any far off on this at all?
The only thing I'll add is the bill came over from the Senate on Friday.
Okay.
It's in committee, Housing and General Affairs, and we'll see what they do with it. I'm sure they'll make some changes, go back and forth. What you're saying is pretty accurate, that the push is to try to shrink, not shrink, that's the wrong word, to try to get the density in the, we have 2 designated village centers, and several things that I saw that were in it that through zoning you can't make a duplex a prohibited use. So, and things like that. But it's also tied pretty tightly to having water and sewer.
Yeah, it has to be. Some of the density they talked about was up to like 5 or 6 primary, principal uses per lot. Well, okay, what size lot? They didn't, because it didn't give us that information in what we got.
I wouldn't worry about it until it has.
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
But you're on to something, that there is, something's gonna come out probably by May.
Well, and just a little bit of an update for those who don't know, our town plan already says to focus our density in the village or areas of already dense population, to focus your density there. The town plan already says that. Our town plan does. So,
We'll see how
Yeah.
it dovetails together.
okay, any more on that, Dave? Anybody else on the board?
Thank you, Dave.
Comments from citizens? John, you're here. Did you want to address the board at all?
Just, listening.
You're just here? Okay. Well, welcome.
Already my hammer ready.
Okay. Thank you. Review minutes, previous meeting. Do I hear a motion to approve the minutes, 3/20/23?
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
Yes.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion on the minutes? They look okay to everybody? I didn't see anything. kind of skimmed through it pretty quick. Let's see. Okay. Get to the end of that, all right. Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the minutes of 3/20/23 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Town manager update, Brandon, you go.
Yeah, I got a couple of things tonight. So, contracts have been signed for all three of our roofing projects. The order that they'll be completed in is the Martin Memorial Hall roof will be first, then the town garage, and then the West Weathersfield Fire Department roof will be third. I've held several meetings with Connecticut River Roofing, and we did write in the contract to allow them to bill for materials. So there'll be basically two payments that will be made for these roofing projects. The first will be the materials. The second will be the labor. So you'll notice on the warrant tonight that we're making our first payment, which includes a bill for the materials for all three roofing projects. These bills are consistent with the payment schedule and the executed contract. Receipts have been reviewed and invoices have been approved to be entered onto this warrant. So again, the final payment will be made upon inspection and completion of work. The second is the wastewater feasibility study. So we have received an approval for the wastewater feasibility study in both villages. And that amount is $92,225. So as the project proceeds, more information will become available. I know that there's several public input sessions that we'll need to go through as we work with the engineers. The Listers Department mailed the business personal property tax letter on March 22nd, and that did include the new $50,000 exemption that was voted on at town meeting. For anybody that needs to fill that out, please have it in by April 20th. If you need any help with it, feel free to contact us and we can help you out. Fire department services. So we are in the process of reviewing contracts for the fire departments. We've held, I think, 2 meetings at this point. We have another meeting this Thursday. But I have received feedback on whether a contract is the route that we want to go. So I'm in the process of putting together a memo to the board for the next meeting to look at all of our options. Performance evaluations. So we've moved forward with performance evaluations for all staff, and the first evaluation was held last week, and we're going to be moving forward with the remaining performance evaluations. From there, the directors would evaluate their staff and then turn those in. Next week, I'm attending the Managers Association conference in Burlington, so I'll actually be out of the office from the 12th to the 14th. I'll be available via phone and email and so forth. The topics this year are innovations in program and service delivery, and that includes government in an online world, intergovernmental collaboration, and public safety innovations. When I get back and during the next meeting, I'll report my experience back to you guys and let you know if what kind of information was learned. Crown Point Road. This is an old military road that goes from Charlestown, New Hampshire to Crown Point, New York. Some of the roads have been turned into current roads. In some places, these are trails. In 2004, the state of Vermont had to purge its system to do away with all old roads or reclassify them. And Weathersfield is one of the only towns in Vermont that decided to keep it. And it was reclassified as a Class 4 road, which means motorized vehicles can use it, but it's not maintained by the town. There are large sections of the road that we don't know where the road is, and people are using historical records to speculate where it is. The town has never surveyed it, and there is a group of people in town that claim the road runs through several residents' properties that I don't believe that we've confirmed. One is Willwood Orchard Road, and the other one is Mr. Moore. Is that right? Okay. So the highway superintendent and also Jason Berard from Vermont Land Trust has requested some sort of a survey be completed so that we can determine exactly where the road goes and how we're going to deal with that with Willwood Orchards and Mr. Moore. So I'm looking to put this on the agenda for April 17th if the board wants to discuss that further. hazard mitigation plan. Following the award of a grant from VAM, we advertised an RFP per the VAM agreement. We received 3 proposals. One was from a group out in Colorado. Another was from a group out in Barry, Vermont. And the last was MARC across the street. The emergency management director and I reviewed the proposals and determined that MARC was the best fit to move forward with. And the project is under $10,000, so it didn't exceed the $10,000 threshold. But according to the state, we still had to put it out to bid. So I did send out an award letter to MARC. They anticipate starting the project on the 15th and completing it no later than February. That does require 4 public input meetings. So when we hold our meeting in a couple of weeks, I'll ask them to put a couple of dates together for select board meetings, and then I'll come back to you and see if those dates work to put on the agenda for those public input meetings. The transfer station punch ticket increase went into effect. We did have a lot of folks that purchased and stocked up on the $3.50 punch tickets, but those have all been weeded out of our system, and we're beginning to sell the new punch tickets. So.
All right, I'm going to open this up for questions, but I want to make one point before I do, and that is back to the town manager's time off next week. Rather than talking of time off, I want to point out that the town manager will only be in the office on Monday and Tuesday, 4, 10, and 11, for anybody that needs to see him. After that, he will not be in the office next week. Questions from the board on the town manager's report? Dave?
What is this status of the fire department for the town? Quite some time ago, the town voted to have a municipal fire department. Where, and I guess maybe somebody can answer that now, or not really, or just find that out, but I don't know whether that got dissolved, or whether that is hanging around still, or what is going on there, so that's a question.
Well, I'll answer that question, sort of. The first part is, a previous select board voted to create a municipal fire department, and that has never changed. So that still stands. As far as getting into much of a discussion on fire department services, this is going to be on the agenda for April 17th. So those, that would be as a question to be prepared for
Okay.
on that. Any other questions on the town manager's report?
Yeah,
Go ahead, Dave.
on the Crown Point Road, just for your sanity,
Okay.
some of this sounded like, and you're coming into this without
Yes, I
being
am.
involved. So, it would be good to talk to somebody who was involved from when the state made that point about ancient roads. I think it was 2015.
Okay.
16
Okay,
it ended.
good.
Yeah.
So, my recollection, though, is that we did hire a surveyor to do some of it, so you're gonna find some records somewhere.
Okay.
Now, some of it's not been done, and that's gotta be looked into, I guess, but I'm saving you a little bit of work here.
I appreciate that.
But by going to see someone who, I don't know whether DeForest would know, I'm sure she would, but just to gather information about the work that was done. I know all of it wasn't done. I can't tell you how long it is right now, but they do have maps, and they do have some sense of what was talked about. So
Okay.
it just might save you a lot of, this sounded really generic, large sections, it's never been surveyed. No, that's not exactly true, because we did pay DiBernardo to do some surveying, so.
I'll take a look in. So the only folks that I've talked to so far is Jason Berard with the state, with Vermont Land Trust, and then also Ray Stapleton. So those are the two.
So one of the controversies, and I'm just coming in this listening, so one of the things that was being talked about was about whether or not, who can go to cut some trees or bushes or make it whole. There is a policy, and at the time that it got done, before Ray's time, It's in the highway department, specifically with words about the Crown Point Road.
Okay.
So,
You've seen that.
Yeah.
Randy, you and I
so
remember that.
I remember at the time that there was questions that surfaced about that kind of thing. I got copied of it because according to the maps, it touches my property at the very end. I was there at the board. It was named a Class 4 road. But our Class 4 road policy says that the town does not maintain it. However, it does take care of existing culverts and drainage. It doesn't install new ones, but
Okay.
it does do that. So I remember saying specifically to myself when this came up, okay, for me, and I would urge all parties to listen to this, or, you know, wherever it may be on your property. I didn't object to it because I would think that I might be able to use that as a town right-of-way that comes in the back of my property.
Yep.
Because it comes down through the Crown Point campground.
It is a town road.
So I didn't want it, for me, I still probably, I'd be kind of selfish and I'd say, I don't want it a trail. I'd like it just to stand the way it is.
And just to compound on what he's saying, the state language on the trail, when they created this, was that a trail does not allow for motorized vehicles.
Right.
It specifically says you can't have motorized vehicles
Right.
on it.
Right.
Once you convert it to a trail.
And I'm not aware of anybody that takes a motor on this at all. It's a matter of walking and,
The other thing I was gonna add was, because it was converted, we had to go through hearings. I think it's 3 hearings
Oh, yeah.
for that, wasn't it, John?
Yeah.
And Dave?
yeah.
I think it's 3 hearings, so there's minutes of all of this and the discussion, and I don't remember the actual number. I think it was somewhere around 17 of these that were brought forward, but I think Crown Point Road was the only one that was kept.
The only one that got kept.
And there never was a survey done. What DiBernardo did was he walked the route as it's laid out now, and then compared it to the town records, and in other words, he pinned it with a GPS.
Yes.
And it came out pretty darn close.
Right.
With the exception of the pieces that there aren't any town records, that's the way
Right.
it is.
Yeah, there were a few pieces that were hollow,
Right.
basically, yeah. Yep, I remember that too. All right, well, we're gonna have a discussion on that. Anything else on that, Dave, right now?
No.
Can I just ask one question about it?
Yeah.
So I know that there are landowners that have the Crown Point on it, and I know that they have requested people not walk on their land. What is the ability to be able to see that trail? I'm just curious, because there's been some definite.
The answer is that was adopted as a Class 4 road, and it's a town road. So technically, it's a town right-of-way, which means
Correct.
anybody can walk on
Yes.
it. And, you know, that was kind of part of what it was to retain the historic road, the Crown Point Road. And I don't really have a problem personally with that, but I do have, let's save the discussion for
That's fine.
the
I
17th.
just wondered what it was, because I had thought that it was something where the public, if they had an interest in walking the trail, they could, but I've heard that there's also been some pushback on a few places where people have been told that they're not allowed to go on the trail. So I just wondered.
And you know, if you're talking about somebody climbing over the fence and walking through the middle of an orchard that's a business, because that's where the trail is supposed to be historically, I would say you probably ought not do that. And I think Mr. Mark had agreed to a trail around it, but I don't think it ever got laid out and established, as I recall. For that, in that situation, and I don't know about any others.
Yeah.
So, yeah, let's hold this discussion off until the 17th. I think I just avoided my first rabbit hole. I get a gold star for that, don't
Yeah, you got a foot caught on it.
I? I tripped a little.
Yeah.
Any other questions on the town manager's report? Okay. Police cruiser warranty and upfitting. Brandon?
So, when I had originally written this proposal, we received 2 estimates. And then what had happened is an estimate went to Ryan Prince's email instead of Bill Daniels, and it did come in, and then Bill didn't get it until today. So when I received that one, it did have a small, well, not a small savings, a little over $1,000 in savings. So I have revised my recommendation to move forward with Yipes Auto and Graphics, and they estimated $10,960.88. I do want to mention that I did back out the graphics portion on the other two because this bid didn't include the graphics portion. And when I talked to Bill today, we're going to treat that as a separate project and pay for that through the operating budget. In addition, we received the warranty cost from Ford of Claremont, and that's for 72 months, 150,000 miles. And the cost of that is $4,625. And that's a full bumper to bumper warranty. And that deductible is $100. So, and all of the new estimate, or not the new estimate, but the estimate that I received today, which is dated March 30th, is in the printed material. And I guess at this time I would recommend that we move forward with the purchase of the premium care warranty from Ford of Claremont for $4,625 and the upfitting from Yipes Auto and Graphics for a total cost not to exceed $10,960.88.
First question I have is, where's this money coming from?
I would recommend that, well, I think we kept 15,000 in police cruiser reserves, and I think we had discussed purchasing the police cruiser upfitting from ARPA.
So that's your recommendation is ARPA?
Yes.
Okay. Discussion.
There's my motion.
I think we should take this up separately. I have a few questions about the upfitting, but the warranty is an absolute. If you buy the car or anything else right now, which we voted to do at the last meeting, then it doesn't make any sense to buy something with no warranty. So
All right.
I'll make a motion that we purchase the warranty for the new cruiser at a cost not to exceed $4,625 from Ford of Claremont.
I'll second it.
Motion's been made and second. Any discussion? The payment for this is gonna come from ARPA?
Yes.
Everybody okay with that? You wanna include that in the motion, Dave?
Yes, yeah, yeah.
And that's okay with you?
Absolutely.
Okay. So the motion's made to purchase the warranty for $4,625 from Ford of Claremont, the money to come out of the ARPA reserve account, or the ARPA account. I don't think it's a reserve account, is it?
No.
Okay. The ARPA account. Any further discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so that takes care of that. And next, Dave,
Yeah, so, did I hear you say that the third request for work came in? It was, what I'm trying to get to is, when whoever did the research on soliciting upfitting, did they explain to whoever, or how did that get handled? So you call up somebody and say, do you want to do this work? Did they all have the same deadline?
Yeah, so Bill solicited the estimates. And when he solicited the estimates, we weren't receiving much response. So he actually contacted 3 companies directly and received those 3 estimates directly.
The reason why I asked that is because at the last meeting, his presentation said that he did that, but he only heard back from one.
Yes.
That company gave the money number, so that was in public, out there,
That is true.
in our meeting. Now I'm looking at a second one that has a date of an estimate at 3:30.
Yes.
10 days to 2 weeks after our meeting and after it was disclosed what the first company wanted to do for the work.
That is correct.
In addition to that, and my point is to the third proposal, at the first meeting, we learned that nothing from the old car would fit the new car. It had to be all new from Adamson's. Adamson's price was all new everything. Now, we get two proposals that are saying that they can take used stuff and put it into our stuff from the old car into the car, that's part of the picture. So, I'm scratching my head saying, does Adamson know something that the other two don't? Or do the other two know something that they don't know? And what happens to well, I guess if we pick the ones that we're gonna take the stuff out of the old car to put it in a new car, we don't have to worry about it. But what would happen if we bid on the new stuff? We have all the stuff on the other cruiser to get rid of.
Well, I had one more wrench to throw in this mix.
That's a lot. I think I just put the toolbox in.
Well, I've got a wrench to put in the toolbox in. And to me, the thing that jumped out at me is you get three quotes. You're right, dates are an issue. But two of the quotes include the graphics and one does not. And typically, you know, if you put out a quote or an RFP like that, you specify what's in it. If something's not in it, then it doesn't qualify as an acceptable bid or quote. So it changed, because it changes the whole game.
Would you like to bid 2 weeks after it was talked about in public that said that there was only, well, I would, because I would have done what the bidder did and left only $100 on the table.
Well, but then, the argument to that I would have is this. Now we have 3 bids on the table we're talking about, so what are you gonna do, do it again?
No, but I would really like clarification about what I said with the used stuff going into the new
Yeah.
stuff. So, how old is the cruiser?
So
that-
Bill said I can call him. Do you want the answer?
No.
No, okay.
How old is the equipment that's in there? So is there something to measure about whether we should be relying on older stuff to put in the new car? Or not?
I think the stuff that they're talking about moving is a radar computer mount, a gun mount, radios from old car, install all equipment in new car. I guess that would be all new, all equipment, new and old.
Light bars, everything, or whatever? I don't know.
Well, no, it doesn't say anything about light bars. Well, but light bars would be the new stuff, because it's $1,900 to do it all.
Just to remove it?
No, to remove the old stuff and install all equipment.
So basically, this, from Yipes, it's to furnish and install the cord control, the siren and the speaker, the blue and white lighting, and rear cage, 1/3 cage behind passenger seat, and then install the provided radios, radar, and computer mount. So those are things that we've already purchased, and I don't think, and Bill's not here, but I don't think that he meant that we couldn't move over the radios and the radar and the computer mount, because we had just purchased those brand new very recently.
Okay,
I think we
so,
spent
so,
50
so,
some
so Adamson though, the bid, the very first one that we heard of, and good thing we didn't act on this at the last meeting. Cause that was all new everything.
I don't think, no, Adamson's doesn't include those items either.
But didn't anybody else hear that? That the stuff from the old car wouldn't go in the new car?
Yeah, that's what he said.
Yeah.
I don't think he meant these 3 items though, the radios, the radar, and the
He
computer.
said nothing. He said nothing would,
Yeah, Steve said, he was there, he was saying
he
yes.
said nothing.
I'm a little bit scared here because the models change, the dimensions may be a ½ inch off or what, I don't know, you know, cars don't necessarily keep the same.
John, you had your hand up.
This is a little bit off the subject since you've already voted to buy the cruiser, but I couldn't find anything in the packet. Did anybody check with state purchasing? Because quite often that gives you some substantial savings. One other thing, and this is strictly my opinion, I think a police cruiser should look like a police cruiser. I don't like, and the chief and I disagree 180 degrees on this, but when a police cruiser's on the road, I want to know it's on the road and not somebody else's sedan. My opinion.
And you want the public to know that.
That's, yeah.
I mean, this isn't just about you or me
No,
or anybody
it's not.
else. We don't want, in the world today, we don't want somebody to accuse us of being like, I don't know, I didn't know if you'd really mean it. That's the last thing we want to do.
Yeah.
Oh, I get what you're saying.
When the ones we have now are covered with dirt, other than the blue lights, which are okay, I understand you don't want a big bubble on top, that affects performance, but I think we're the only, wow, we're one of the few towns that go with a stealthy lettering that doesn't reflect when it's dirty.
Did you see on this one, I don't know, maybe I'm just,
What page are we on, Adamson?
yeah, you know, I'm not picking on Addison, I'm
What
not
page?
picking on them, it's the second to last page, third to last page.
Page 4, page 5, page 4?
Page says page 3 of the Addison, if I did that right, but anyways, it's just like, I don't know, I just really started looking at some of this, you go down like fourth up from the bottom, self-adjusting double cup holders, adjust to 3.5 in diameter, $57. Like, I don't know, it's $57.
The car doesn't come with a cup holder?
I don't know, I just, I'm sorry, it was only $57, but I'm like, what the heck?
They do spend a significant amount of time.
No, I understand that, but, yeah, so everybody quoted the same thing, so all of these quotes have expandable cup holders that go to 3.5 inches?
According to the chief, these are
Okay,
all
just curious.
similar estimates. The only difference is, according to the chief, is that Yipes wasn't able to price out the graphics, and forgot to include those.
So that means there isn't any, John.
And that seems,
There you go.
but that seems strange to me, because the name of the company is Yipes Auto and Graphics. And they
Yeah.
can't quote graphics?
Whoops.
I have
Well, that was my question to Brendan, what happened?
So the graphics, you know, from Adamson it was 950, and from Twinline it's 750. So I think if we treated that as a separate project, if Yipes came in at 1,000, then we would go with the low bidder on the graphics.
So exclude
outside of it.
But my only concern is that Yipes is a graphics designer. What if we accept their bid and have them do the graphics, and that's why I asked you, where did those other two quotes for graphics come from? Are they independents that they're sending it out to? Can we send it to them? Because what if Yipes comes back and says it's $2,200? Now we can save any money.
No, we're gonna take out the graphics completely, and then,
I got that.
And then
I got
and we
that.
can go to the low bid on the graphics and do the upfitting elsewhere.
Well,
Too complicated. I'm with you, I didn't even read that, but if they're a graphic thing, how come it didn't go in there? Maybe it's because it didn't get specified for what they wanted.
and I mean, I don't have a problem with it, but if I don't have a number that says this is what the graphics are going to be, and I see it's in those other quotes, but I don't know who's doing that and why that number is that in those quotes. And let's say it's my company and I'm fixing your motorcycle and I'm getting it painted, but you want to come pick up everything and take it somewhere else and have the graphics done. I'm probably going to tell you to look, just take the whole thing and do it yourself.
Well, I mean, originally,
It's not going to get
you
into
know,
it.
I had recommended that we move forward with a formal RFP process.
Yes.
But it seemed like there was a rush to get this work voted on. And now,
There's not a rush anymore, Mr. Chairman. I'm making a motion to table this for the decision until we get more clarification until the 17th.
A motion's been made. Do I hear a second?
Yeah, I'll second it.
And,
Discussion.
yes, I would like the graphics to be included. And I'd take John's point, because I'm with him on this.
And that would be to recommend that the graphics are not a stealthy thing, that they are actually a standout.
And I'm assuming, and I could be wrong, but this may be the K-9 unit replacement?
no.
No? Okay, but I don't know
Wait,
graphics,
yes, it is. It is the K9 replacement. I'm sorry.
so that's a consideration, and that certainly needs to be, it is now identified in letters that are this big, kind of,
Yeah.
but
What color would
So-
you?
So these estimates are okay. Get Yipes to include the graphics in there. estimate.
I would like you, the town manager, and the police chief to work with the 3 known people that are here and then come back and figure it out for us for the next meeting for a vote.
It might be a different price for the graphics if we're changing the way we want.
That's okay. I
Okay.
wanna listen. 'Cause
That's
we're
why
gonna
I'm
have to-
just saying. it's
We're gonna have to,
be-
these 3 companies are the ones that are known.
The numbers are already out
You
there.
keep, the numbers are out
Except for
there,
the
they
graphics.
are what they, except for the graphics, that's right, and then, we have to waive the policy anyway, because we didn't put out an RFP. The purchasing policy, because it's over 10 grand.
And the argument for not putting on an RFP is the bids never came back over $10,000, but now they're more expensive. The last one that I looked into, I believe, was around $6,000,
Yeah, but now they are. So,
but now they're exceeding the threshold.
okay, all right, so you're okay with that, you and I'll, and we'll get with Bill and we'll go
Yep.
through these couple of things here and
Wendy,
get it ironed out.
Wendy.
I just, one quick thing, and there's nothing wrong with Bill letting us know why he's chosen the graphics or who has done that, as far as, maybe he has his reasons for
Yeah.
why he goes with the graphics. I'm just saying that, I don't know what it is,
Oh.
but I'm just
Oh, the
saying.
colors on the graphics and stuff?
Yeah, whatever.
I like white.
Yeah, let's get a black and white.
The car's white.
Oh, yeah, I don't even know what did anybody say what the color of the car was? Was it blue or something?
It's black.
It's black, okay.
So it'd be a black and white,
I don't know.
or black and blue.
All right, well,
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor, motion and a second. Any further discussion on the motion to table the discussion and have the town manager, chair, and police chief get together on the, on this, figure it out and bring it back to the board? Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, next, ARPA discussion. Keep going, Brandon.
So, the purpose of this discussion is to determine how to best allocate the remaining ARPA funds that we have available for use. When this was written, we had $464,009 that we, or the board allocated to date. And we had $354,044 remaining, so you just have to back out that $46.25 that was just expended on the warranty. So roughly $350,000 remaining. VLCT released a PowerPoint presentation, and they had 3 scenarios to spend the ARPA funds. Scenario 1 would be to spend the ARPA funds directly from our ARPA Special Revenue Fund as established by the treasurer. In this scenario, we would continue to allocate funds to expenses approved by the select board, but we cannot transfer funds to reserves through this scenario. The language is pretty broad otherwise. Scenario 2 would be to use ARPA as a revenue source in annual budgeting. In this scenario, we can use the ARPA funds in the general fund to offset the cost of ARPA expenditures, which allows the most input in spending funds by including it in the annual budgeting process. There is one more budget cycle remaining, which is FY25, to do that, to move forward with that scenario. Scenario 3 would be to transfer ARPA funds to the general fund to create fund balance. This approach uses ARPA funds for an eligible purpose, freeing up other funds with fewer restrictions to allow for a longer timeline. And it utilizes future budget cycles to designate the surplus for voter-approved purposes. This is similar to what they did in Stowe. After we decide on which scenario to proceed with, I'd like to get what the select board feels like the priorities are for ARPA fund use. This would give me the ability to start, figuring out how to spend the funds.
Anybody?
I can start.
Go ahead, John.
Well, I should come after the board, but then seeing hands go up.
It's okay.
When the funds first hit the street and it looked like it was gonna be really restricted what they could be used for, like a half a dozen things. And then the 500-page document come out and now it looks like it can be used for many more things than originally planned. A lot of towns, I'm not saying all, but a lot of towns have solicited more public input than Weathersfield has. I know it's on the agenda, people should read the agenda, and if they don't, that's their problem. But I'll give you an example. Cavendish has a committee, and they formed a little bit on the lake side, but nonetheless, they have a public committee, and they're kind of working on the side with the select board. Obviously, it's still your guys' game on what it gets spent on, but nonetheless, that they're really actively trying to get public input. There's a whiteboard up in Brandon's office that has a whole bunch of things on it, and I'm not sure any of them have been seriously discussed. Even the little town of Baltimore, at their town meeting, they had a short discussion on what to use their $80,000 for. And the way I understood it, and maybe I got it wrong, that the money really was for long-term projects that will enhance the community. It appears to me anyway, somebody comes in and wants a washing machine, oh, let's use the ARPA money. Somebody comes in and wants a police cruiser, oh, let's use the ARPA money. And I got a real problem with it being used as a piggy bank. That's it.
Well,
I was trying to figure out when you said using it as a piggy bank, but, I'm not sure what else you'd use the money. It's there, you take it out, you use it for things. So, like, you're gonna use it, like, so
I
far,
understand.
we've used it for COVID, small business grants, firefighting gear for the police, roof repairs, for a generator, like, we've kinda used it around.
No, I understand that, Paul, and I don't disagree with you. I'm not saying any of the things that was spent on was inappropriate, except for the two that I listed that seem to be, somebody comes in and it just, oh, here's a pot of money we can use. But, and indeed, these are the projects that you've spent it on are good. This building's needed a generator for 30 years, the roofs.
Right, but
I think there's been a lack of public input by not having a dedicated meeting or maybe some kind of committee that could come up with some ideas. I know that there was some talk about trying to do some more work over at Hoisington Field. That would enhance the community. I don't know. I'm just when it's gone, and the opportunity is gone. I come in probably a year ago now on broadband. TDS, without a lot of push from us, is going ahead and building it out. Nonetheless, all the 674 numbers are not consolidated, not new broadband. Okay, and I didn't feel the board took a very proactive approach on that.
Yeah, can I just say, I do agree with John, hindsight's 20/20, but if we were to go back and do it again, personally, I would push more for a committee that would try to solicit some of that and understand this. That's just me personally, but, like I said, do you have any suggestions then?
this committee's always
It's
been
getting
right
late.
here.
I'm sorry.
No, I know that.
It's getting late. The money needs to be spent or at least encumbered.
Right.
Well, and I think I think that's the purpose of this discussion here, right here. I don't think we need to make a decision tonight, but we need to start definitely kind of getting it in our head. What do we want to do? Are there some other projects like Hoisington Field, or anything else? I know we put money up. I think we had voted to put money up as needed for that engineering study on the wastewater. But we got most of it, didn't cost us anything, did it?
Yeah, they completely funded it at 100%.
See, but we were gonna use it for that. That was another one of your ideas, I think.
Yes.
Yeah, no, and I was also gonna say that I do agree with some of the things that you're saying. I do. That we have to be careful with the fact of having,
But
it be used possibly just for some short term.
I don't see this board dropping the ball on this money and letting it get away. I don't see that happening. Dave won't let that happen. Neither would I.
I guess my question is, how can we solicit more public input?
Come to the meeting.
that's a great question. And
I know, right across the board.
right across the board for the 6 years, at least I've been doing it, not as much as everybody else in here, but I would love public comment on more things.
Yeah.
I would love more people showing up to the meetings.
People get
Besides
really
just phone calls to people.
What kind of smoke do you want to put out there? David,
I listened to what you said, John, and you're 100% true. And the police cruiser took me by surprise. That is a less than, or a 5-year thing. The washing machine is a 1 year, it was $5,000 or whatever that was. That was a little out there.
About the refrigerator.
So, I don't know whether the board has signed on to this or not, but when we started it, the problem with committees are you can get bogged down in going to committees and then you talk about some things. But the big things, like you use an example of broadband, the town doesn't have a broadband company. And what I'm being told right now is that the building costs have doubled. The TDS is going to get a surprise because it was $20,000 a mile. Weathersfield has 60 miles of roads, or maybe a little bit more, 65 miles. If we were to redo the whole thing from end to end, it would be in the millions of dollars. And so the 300,000 that we have left, it's easy to say, I'm going to throw all that money into broadband. I'm going to start my own company. I'm going to offer it. Okay, but where am I going with that? Because I'd have to go to, I don't know, to an end of the town where an already existing trunk line is, and we're going to have somebody up on Girdlot say, pick me, and I'm going to say, I can't get there because we had to run an all-new line down here because the companies aren't going to work together. They're going to have to line up their own, even if it's a municipal. And so that's the problem we have. Even with this water and wastewater thing, with this grant coming up, you watch and see. We've had these grants from the beginning of time. We study something, and then we learn that it's in the millions of dollars. We all get a little gun shy, and now with the interest rate moving up, we can't borrow money here at this table for, I'm going to take a wild swing, but I'm pretty close. I bet we can't borrow now today for 4.5. It was 4.25, and the Fed raised it another 1/4 point. So the question becomes, if not now, when, in our lifetime or whatever, but that's the issue, is when you do a study for $100,000 and somebody says it didn't cost a penny, it's cost somebody a penny. And then we'll get these plans and we'll look at them and we'll go, holy cow, I mean, this is, so let's just envision the play out here of like wastewater to Scottney. Just think about it for a moment. Everybody here has their own system right now. They do. What would you do if a new trunk line just ran down Route 5? Do you arbitrarily just say, all these systems are bad and we're failing you, you need to join the new system for a fee? Is that what we're going to come to? For Windsor, the town manager's already reached out to Windsor and Springfield for the Perkinsville Village. They don't have the capabilities in their systems right now. They would have to upgrade dramatically. We're in a bit of a box. So what do you do then? Do we put on our own big system somewhere in the villages? I don't even know how I'm going to get my arms around the system that would be like $10 or $20 million.
Well, that's the thing. This money's not even close to
Right.
doing anything.
So we've tried. The problem with committees, I mean, I remember first getting involved. You get on the budget committee, and then whoever the sitting boards are, you sit out there and you do all the work on the budgets, and then they listen to you, and then they have their ears off, and they make their own decisions anyway. so you need to be on the boards that make the move.
Yeah.
So I don't know the answer to deal with the 300,000 or whatever that's left. I don't like the idea of using it somehow. You can call it not a reserve account, but it sure smells like a reserve account. It sure looks like a duck to me when if you're gonna use it to offset some annual expenses and then just keep it in here for.
yeah,
I didn't like
I
that.
was questioning whether that actually fit or not. Wendy?
Okay, a little bit directed to John. On the wastewater, I thought part of the fact that we were doing this study was because there are a lot of infrastructure, there's a lot of grants and a lot of things that are available at this time. So yes, we do know, and it's not just grants, but even very low interest loans that are not, that would be possibly through the state. Same with water, the kind of that same idea.
I don't have the specifics, but I could get it. But there is a boatload of money on the infrastructure bill coming from water.
Yeah, I've been watching it.
And that, I'm not saying it won't cost a penny.
Right.
But nonetheless.
It's the time
It's
proof.
similar to in the sixties and seventies when all the towns were, you know, but there again, there were turds floating up and down the river, so. I mean, we're way past that.
Yeah.
But do we wait until our well system's contaminated? I'm not saying it's in any imminent danger, but do we wait till then? The village of Perkinsville, they've really got a potential problem that, but no, nothing in life is free, we all know that.
Right.
Just as a point on what you're talking about there, if we had a grant, we only have 10% of $3 million. We have 300,000, $3.5 million. We've got 10% for that. And that would be a 10% match, not a 20% match. You know, and somebody said $20 million to put a system in. So more than likely, I mean, the first thing though is to get through what we have, which is the engineering project.
Yeah.
That's gonna, you know, kind of tell us where we're at. And that's the big step, because once that's done, then you can apply for those grants. You've got things, your ducks are in a row.
I agree.
But bottom line is, by the time all that stuff comes through and we figure all that out, we gotta do something with this now. I mean, in the short term.
No, you're
All
right.
that stuff
The only
is,
thing you could do possibly is talk to Otter Creek, say, we're really interested, if you are, and that would put into their thought process when they're doing the study, these guys are serious, that they really want to do something. I don't know if that would amount to anything or not. Obviously, when they don't work for free either. But anybody that has a project, as we've learned in highway, with projects on a shelf that are virtually shovel-ready, are at the front of the line.
Brandon, what's the timeline on that engineering study on the wastewater?
I think it'll take over 12 months, somewhere around 12 to
And when are they starting?
we have our kickoff meeting next week.
Okay. So we're talking April next year.
That is a really good, important first step. And maybe it will, maybe Dave's right, maybe the whole thing will fall on its face.
I don't know, I'm just hearing some scary numbers on building. Look at what they're proposing for Burlington High School.
Yeah.
I agree with you 100%. I mean, all you can do is go to the hardware store and buy a piece of pipe. You know, plan, and I'm really concerned with if they come back and say, well, your best bet's to build your own plant, then you gotta have an operator.
Yes,
That's continuing cost.
and not one.
yeah,
Yes.
Yeah,
this town's not gonna be able
or
to.
something. But anyway, those operating costs are also to be figured into it.
What are the types of infrastructure upgrades, and I mean, like, maybe even inside the buildings, are things perhaps we should be looking at? John, you've talked about the wiring and condition inside this building for years. You know, is that one that should be
The
addressed?
library needed more roof. I mean, you saw the pictures of inside?
Yeah, a mess.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I'm not, so that's when I led off the discussion about, I'm not so concerned about a new room, as I saw
Yeah, I know.
the rafters were falling apart.
Steve?
That's-
Yeah, and there are other concerns with this building as well. I think when Ed was the town manager, he had a proposal for security
Yeah.
and access. I know we
Absolutely.
ran into issues during the COVID pandemic in terms of just trying to deal with that. With the public coming into the building, we had rigged up some sort of a bell system that
Yes.
there are a lot of issues here. There's air control, air quality issues. We could spend a lot of money just in this building
Yeah,
here.
absolutely.
Although we may have to start off by having some kind of an architectural or engineering study to figure some of this stuff out.
We talked about key cards. I mean,
We've
it's
got
hard.
space available now. The police vacated their
Yeah.
office here, where we could build some sort of reception area where we could better control access. There's a lot of possibilities. Probably spending that money is not something we're gonna get from the voters out of the general fund budget.
And on the other side of that, when Sven was here, though, you need to ask yourself, are buildings that important? because he was trying to put all of our land records available where everybody could get online at their own homes, which is the state's goal about broadband. They want Star Trek. We don't need a building with heat and everything. You can just push a button and you've accessed your deed, your stuff for land use, you're all right here.
Plan is
Yep.
virtually digitizing all of the town clerk records.
Yep, yep.
Do you see it, do you envision a day that this isn't here? That there isn't a town office? I don't.
No.
I will say, this is kind of a sidebar, but last week we passed the bill, the capital bill, and gave BGS authorization to sell 3 state office buildings. We don't need them.
There you go.
One of them's right in the middle of Arlington.
Sell Burlington. Back to New York or something.
They'll make apartments.
Again, none of that's gonna happen in the time of this money
No.
here, so.
So, but we've opened up a good discussion about some things that we're gonna need to follow up on. You know, do we wanna do some work here? Do we wanna think about where we can put some money? Any other projects in any other buildings or any other areas, you know, that people can come up with? And yes, out to the public, you know, this is your committee. Come on in and talk to us if you have any ideas. The criteria that we have tried to look at here at this board is that it's, we're trying to invest in things that serve the town as a whole, not just I think Dave has used the analogy with the broadband, that, okay, if you extended it out that road and you gave 3 people broadband, that doesn't serve everybody, it serves 3 people. So is that a good, you know, a good use of the funds? And maybe that's a bad example, but I just want to make a point that we're trying to use it to serve everybody in the town. Go ahead, Brandon.
So I extracted some stuff, and I just want to circle back to it. So we got Martin Memorial Hall architecture, library parking lot, or Martin Memorial Hall security, digitization of land records, maybe electrical improvements. Hoisington failed. I know there's a project coming from Parks and Recreation Commission on Hoisington Field. Is there anything else?
Yes.
Anything?
Yes. And it was a big one that we talked about when we went around this building on the building assessments.
Yep.
That's the drainage on this building here.
Yep, drainage. Anything else anybody can think of?
You got security on there, right?
I got security. I'll start gathering this information.
Where is the money that we had set aside for the water district?
That's in there.
No, it isn't. I don't see it.
Are you on the expenditure?
I'm on the sheet that you have for us right here in front of me.
Okay, so if you go to sub-grant to AFD2,
Excuse me?
It's,
that's all the way at the bottom.
yeah, it's at the very
You'll see
bottom,
sub-grant to AFD number 2.
right here.
Yeah,
And then you'll see 29,500 spent to date,
yeah.
$45,500 remaining.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
I just wanted to make sure that didn't disappear.
No, it's still there.
Any further discussion on this topic? Okay, you're all set, Brendan, with some stuff to look for?
Steve's got something.
Oh,
for it.
I'm sorry, Steve.
I don't know that they don't need to make a decision tonight on which one of those 3 methods they want.
No, it was just, yeah.
And probably the method you're going to use will vary depending on how you want to use the money. On first blush, I'm not particularly in favor of anything except keeping it in the ARPA fund, because at least to my mind, well, I wouldn't mind my taxes going down by 9 cents if you want to apply the $350,000 to the general fund budget in 2025, but I'm not sure that's the best use of the money, because people are gonna be here with pitchforks in 2026 when the tax rate goes back up by 10 cents.
Well, but I think the discussion points to just letting it accumulate as a fund balance at the end of the year, so you wouldn't get your 9-cent discount.
Eventually the fund balance is more likely to go back as tax relief than anything else. And I think it's to me, it's not the wisest use of the money to give it back to ourselves.
And I agree, and the other thing is, we don't actually have to spend the money, but we have to have it committed, correct? Okay,
And we have until 2026 to fully expend it.
okay, committed by 2025, what is that, October,
Committed
September or
by
October of
June
25?
30th, 2024, and then
Oh.
spent, I believe, June 30th, 2026.
Okay,
We
so
said a
2
year
years
and-
after, okay. John?
You may wanna make sure that the word they're using is encumbered, whether that means under contract or we have an idea how we're gonna do it. I'm not sure what it means.
Okay. That's a good point.
Encumbered may mean that you gotta have it under contract. And then, because everybody understands the supply issues, that don't seem to have an end to them.
Well, let's take a look at that. If we were to say, we're gonna vote to, spend this money on, I'm gonna say a fire truck, just because, that's $400,000. But if we don't actually, if we're not planning on buying a fire truck for 6 years, how are we gonna hold that money? That would be putting it in a reserve account. And you can't do that. That's what, I'm trying to substantiate what you're saying, John, is that you can't do that. That's not encumbered.
Well, the way that you would have to do that is you would say you're purchasing a fire truck and then you'd expense it out to the general fund budget and then transfer that to reserves.
Stop saying fire truck, somebody will.
I'll trump you all. You could pay for the truck you just bought. Don't have any payments. But actually, you can do that by loans that you've already encumbered. They're allowing that. You can pay off the grader. I don't know. I'm just.
You could.
Yeah, but
But I don't
I've
think-
already listened to some other comments when you do that, and then somebody will say, "Oh, I want to trade up earlier." That doesn't fit what the
No.
goal is.
No, it's not the direction I'm trying to go. I'm just
Well, I think
trying to agree with John.
Going back to Steve's point, a lot of these things are things that would be difficult to put into the general fund budget. So we do have opportunity right now.
Right.
Yeah.
We have to see what exactly the federal definition, official federal definition is of encumbered. There you go. But it's my idea, or my belief that it's gonna be more in the like, you've got a contract, they're not gonna do the work until the fall of 2025.
Sure.
But you've got a bid and a contract that's signed and that money is encumbered, rather than, I just kind of think we're gonna spend $100,000 on our new parking lot.
Yeah.
Is there something, though, that you can make that would, and I'm listening to the state, I don't know where they're all gonna get the money and how it's just gonna drop out of the sky with all this other money. So instead of paying cash for something, is there any way that a project that would be like Martin Hall, where you would wrap it all up in a bow and then go to Homeland Security for a grant and only spend 10 grand on the ARPA funds? And have the other one go to?
That's what we did with the generator.
Okay.
So it was a 50-50 match, and there's
Okay.
programs out there.
Yeah, I know there are. I still get all the emails for Homeland Security. They're talking about buildings, and if somebody wanted to put a camera system in here, I'm sure that we'd only have to pony up 10%.
The thing is,
Or drainage, or
And
anything.
that would be another thing is this,
Anything.
security, under the security is the surveillance in this building.
Here's my problem, though. I don't mind going out there and writing the grants, but I can't commit the ARPA funds. So I'm trying to get an idea of how the board wants to spend the money, so that so now I can start leveraging these grants and have the authority to do that. Because right now I can't.
I think for us, that's fine, I just don't know, I personally don't know that they're there. So if you come back to us and say, hey, there's a grant, it'll cover all the security, the badging in, the cameras, the whatever, it's gonna be X amount of dollars, and we're only gonna have to put up this much.
Okay.
Great, I'll vote
That's
something
right,
in for
the
you.
topic, it depends
Yeah,
on the topic.
I don't know the grants are out there, so
Right.
it's kind of this, so we just gave you a list, I think, of the things that,
Yep.
that we were just thinking about here. So maybe take a look at that, and then we'll see what's
And
next.
as the manager of the town, if you find some other things that you think should be done, and you can bring them to us, and we can have that discussion. I think that's what Paul's saying.
And we certainly will, but, going back to the Martin Memorial Hall generator project, we applied for that quite some time ago.
Yeah.
So if we submit an application and we commit a certain amount, if the grant is funded, it could be some time before it's funded, and now we have the funding tied up, and we might not get the funding. So there's always, it's a little tricky.
Yeah, it's always
Go
there.
ahead, John.
And just to muddy the water even more, what was it, 2 weeks ago, I said, we got
Yes.
the application for the municipal assessment of municipal building. And those grants are up to $300,000, where they'll come in and it's concentrating on energy. So they'll look at your buildings and say, well, if you do X, Y, and Z and change to this fuel or that fuel, we'll give you that. I believe those are outright grants.
John, you just,
How's that gonna tie into how you spend the ARPA money?
well, you just used a word that I think we need to throw over to the town manager, and that's assessment, because we actually just walked ourselves into an assessment this year, mandatorily, by the COLA and not the COLA,
Well, we didn't walk ourselves into it.
well, the
This,
state did, whatever.
Well,
But anyway, we haven't, do we have enough money to do an assessment?
That's a good question. I have to advertise the RFP, which I haven't gotten to yet.
So, you know, maybe we need some of the money for that. I don't know. I'm just saying.
this bill that just left the House, went to the Senate, they'll do something to it. The state's gonna take over appraising. It's that simple. Because
Oh,
it's such
good.
a mess.
Oh, good. That'll fix everything.
all right.
So,
Don't hold your breath for it to happen. Have we got the official letter from the state yet? It's
No.
just come out this spring.
no, we have not received the official letter yet. So within the next couple of meetings, I'm gonna let the board know which grants are currently available.
Thank you.
And which projects are being proposed in the town that are coming forward, and then we can take it from there.
Right.
Is that okay? All right.
Okay, moving on.
Well,
There are ways,
what?
there are ways that we can work within the system to, make things work. If we
Yep.
find out we wanna do an ARPA project that's $150,000, but a little later we find out that 75,000 of that can come from another grant. There are ways, until the deadline hits us, when it has to be encumbered, there are ways for us to work within the system and provide some flexibility. But the closer we get to that deadline, the less flexibility we're gonna have. So we do need to,
Right.
we need to take our time and be thoughtful, but we need to move ahead and figure out what we wanna do so we have more flexibility for grants and whatever.
So end of June 2024 is 14 months, roughly? 14, 15 months, counting April, May,
Yep.
June. 15 months. That's what we've got left. So if it takes 12 months to get through
A grant cycle.
a project cycle, yeah, we've got to make some decisions over the next few months. That's kind of what I wanted to sum up. Okay,
Just an example real quick, and then we can move on. But the wastewater
you.
feasibility study. Sorry. The wastewater feasibility study, we applied for that last July.
Right.
And we just received notification recently that, I think it was last week, that we got the funding for it. So that's kind of like how long it's been taken for us to receive decisions on grant funding applications that we submit.
and that needed a push, I think, if I
Yeah,
remember right.
and John was able to
took
get
care of
that through.
Yeah.
Thank you for that, John.
And then Olivia coordinated an increase in the grant, because it was only 35,000 to begin with, and she worked with Otter Creek Engineering to bump it up to the 96. So that's kind of how
Good
all
job.
those parts moved along.
Okay, that ends the ARPA discussion for tonight. We will be back at the next, that'll be on the next agenda or the following?
Either the next one or the following, depending on,
Okay,
probably the following one. Might.
okay.
Like,
Good night, John, thank you. Appointments.
Both of those at once?
Yes,
I make a motion that we approve Patricia Beers for Veterans Memorial Committee and Jason Rasmussen for, I think he's is gonna be a backup or an alternate? Is he an alternate?
doesn't say.
I don't think it specified on his application.
Okay, well, then Jason Rasmussen on the zoning board of adjustment, because there's 3 vacancies.
It just, the first name under Veterans Memorial is Patience Beers.
Oh, what did I say? Patricia, I'm
Patricia.
sorry, Patience, I apologize.
It's okay. I just want to make sure we have it
Yep.
right. in the-
Yep.
That's all. Is there a second to the motion?
Yep.
Motion's made and second. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those are both passed. Approve the warrants. Do I hear a motion for the warrants?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve the warrant for meeting of April 3rd, 2023. General fund payroll is $14,935.99. Operating expenses, $56,482.68. Highway fund payroll is $8,124.28. Operating expense, $26,877.06. Solid waste management, payroll is $2,112.40. Operating expenses, $1,237.69. Library payroll is $1,998.33. Looks like ARPA roof is $113,720.29. For grand totals of payroll is $27,171, and operating expenses $198,317.72.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Motion's been made and second. Discussion on the warrants. Nobody has anything? Dave, anything on the warrants? No? Wendy? All right, no discussion on the warrants. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any other business?
Yes.
Go.
Is there, I saw Matt Walasevich on there, I think he's still on, but, so has he gone off to training? I see he got paid a little bit of money, so is that working, or what's working?
So he started working in the office. Right now, we only have a budget for up to 5 hours per week. So I did write him a letter and asked him if he wanted to talk about the position further, to give me send me an email and we can set up that meeting. But I think he's getting adjusted to the position, but he is on if you'd like to hear from him.
No, I just via.
I am on the meeting.
Go ahead, Matt.
Yes, I'm working 5 hours a week at the moment, going through trainings through the Department of Taxes at the moment. So I'm still kind of getting adjusted to the position, but I'd be interested in moving more into like an assessor job.
So I think, I'd like to put something together for the board, because right now we're contracting out to Nemrick. That's really a temporary solution. But if we were to look at something more long-term, then we could send somebody to training and then appoint them as the assessor.
Well, I don't know if you'd have to go that far, but I do support before Matt got on there,
Yes.
was that he's gonna need more than 5 hours.
Right.
Or anybody would, to learn, or go to VLCT, or whatever they gotta do to figure that out. And I would suggest that the contract get lowered. I don't care what happens. Here's why. We need people that are gonna be trusted persons when the reappraisal comes, and they need to have some information well before that happens. I've been thinking about putting my name in, and I'll tell you what, I'm gonna come in and I'll bill my time, because it's gonna be more than 5 hours. So, but I would encourage anybody to do that, because we have 1,650 parcels, and I don't, I just heard John say the state's gonna do it all. Well, good luck with that picture. So when something happens like this, people that own properties want a little bit more at home feeling, rather than some company that comes in and says, you're worth $14 million or whatever. There's gonna be some friction.
So we do have a reserve account for the listers. So if the board wants me to increase hours, then we could transfer some funding from that reserve account, so that I can.
Go ahead, Matt.
Can I call?
Yes.
Okay. So I just want to add in. I've been doing this training. I'm not clocked in. Going through the old webinars and everything the State Department has. So it would be nice to have a few more hours, at least to cover the training and everything.
I think we've done the same thing in the past.
Yeah.
When we have somebody here that wants to learn something like this, And I'm telling you, the reason why is we're gonna be having to have a reappraisal. I mean, there's kind of like no way around it. So they're gonna have to be familiar where the records are, where a person that works for several towns isn't gonna have that. I don't believe they're gonna have that touch for the residents that's gonna be required. And to answer your question about a reappraisal, do we have enough money in there? The answer is no. And I'll tell you why. We have about $250,000 in that bank account right now, in that reserve account. There are 1,650 parcels. That means about $125 to $150 per parcel for a complete reappraisal? I think not.
Yeah, well, that's why I asked.
There's just no way that that's gonna compute, where you're gonna spend, so what? Somebody's gonna come in and do work for 25, a company, what does Nemrick charge us to do the listers? $70 an hour right now?
I'd have to look back at the contract. I don't know if
It's a lot.
it is. It's up there.
So you mean to tell me that they're gonna handle like a reappraisal for 2 hours on somebody's properties? Not happening.
So, we do have a short-term issue, which is we have a limited amount of money available in the lister's budget until year end. And we have a person that needs to go through training. So how does the board want me to handle that, without going over budget?
Can you estimate what that would be? So if he wanted to work like another 5 hours a week, you're only talking about another $100 a week, and that's how many weeks until year end?
Okay,
12?
yeah, I'd say,
I don't know, I'm asking.
I'm a lot simpler about it. We budgeted a certain amount of money for 3 listers. We have 1. He runs the town.
That's exactly why I said to lower the, or say, listen, I'm sorry, the company, they're only gonna work an hour less, because it's 70, we're getting, it's fun to have contracts, but there's a downside to have contracts too. And that's the per dollar hour that you're charged. It's not you're not on the payroll, it's not $20 an hour.
Go ahead, Matt.
Could I add a comment? Well, there's also the thing, switching from CAMA to Vermont Pi. And CAMA is fairly easily to use, but Vermont Pi, things aren't switching over between 2 systems. So I'm having to go through training for one system, then second system, and then having to try to figure out how to get those together. So
I'm with you, Mike. Let the manager
that's a
figure
state
it out.
mandated thing,
Yeah,
so.
let these guys figure it out.
Now he's gotten the okay to, or try to make that happen.
Right, you've got a budget to work in. You know how
well,
to do
no,
it.
I don't have the budget is extremely tight until the end of the year. And I'm so I've limited hours across the board for all employees. So no, to answer your question, the maximum amount that Mr. Wallace Savage can work is 5 hours per week.
Where's all the other money for the listers that we had set aside for 3 listers?
It was only $10,000 per year.
Total for 3 listers?
Yeah,
But
10,000 each, right?
$10,000 in total.
Ooh.
It may be 11. Don't give me a margin of error plus or minus 2,000, but
But he's also got a department almost $26,000 overdrawn,
Yeah.
which it hits that general fund.
Oh, I
I have
know.
$5,000 in shortfalls in revenue and town clerk shortfalls in revenue and the general fund in total. So after I ran projections, this is what I'm working with right now.
And what is the extra money that we haven't set aside for the listers that we,
$280,000 for the reappraisal.
But that's a reappraisal.
Yeah, that's specific.
No.
Yeah,
a
that's not
reserve
coming out of,
account.
that's not gonna be labor
no,
training.
we're not
No,
gonna use that.
no, 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 no.
But if you're using it with the anticipation that Mr. Wallace Savage will be working on the reappraisal, then that is funding that can be used for,
No,
Go ahead,
let's not touch that right now. I don't,
No,
there's not enough
yeah.
there. Let's, I'm okay if you wanna look at some other things and try to figure it out, but I mean, I cannot believe we can't figure out a few more hours to get him trained and get that going. If not, then, I don't know, then it's not gonna happen right now, right?
that's correct, and that's the barrier that we're facing right now. I am open to reducing contracted services over a longer period of time, but I don't think it's
Right this second.
quite good timing to just reduce that right now.
I want the chair and the town manager to consider moving $1,000 out of the rainy day fund for Lister training.
Is that enough, Brandon?
I think it'd be nice to have a little bit more flexibility, maybe 2,000.
You okay with that, Dave?
Yep,
Is that a motion?
yep.
I'll second it.
Motion's been made and seconded to move $2,000 from the rainy day account. And that is being moved into the general fund for the town manager to use for training.
For listers.
List.
For
Specific.
listers. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. There you go.
Thank you.
Thanks,
That,
Matt.
that work, Matt? That help?
Thank you.
Oh,
Thank you. Yep. Yeah, that'd be good.
And Matt, I'll touch base with you sometime this week. Do you plan on coming in tomorrow?
I did my 5 hours today, so I'll be in next Monday, but I can give you a call.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay.
okay, thanks. Any other business?
Thank you.
Hearing none, do I hear a motion for executive session? VSA 1-313-1E. This is a legal discussion
Oh,
that has to do with contracts.
Be on the side.
I'll make a motion and that we include the town manager as well. Anyone else?
Do I
That
hear-
needs,
I'll second the motion.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
aye,
Aye. We are in executive session.
all right.
I'm just gonna add